Hello, world. If you are like me, you feel like you're losing your mind in modern society just a little bit at the moment, we do hope that the next couple of hours of science will lend you more of that sanity, maybe a little humor, maybe a little joy, because we're going to have
This Week in Science coming
up next.
That was a great disclaimer. That was perfect.
Thank you, Justin. Yeah, we are going to do our live podcast broadcast right here and now for the next little bit. And like I love to tell you, not all the stuff may necessarily make it into the final podcast. So you're here for all the real stuff.
Yeah.
Isn't that exciting? Make you feel great? Hello, everyone in the chat rooms. So good to see you tonight. Wonderful to have you here. It's just great to get everyone together because we need a little our good community right now.
I like that disclaimer that you've added to the show. What you're about to see is a rehearsal of the actual show that we presented before a live audience.
Yeah.
No, this is the live audience one. This is the one where we take out the parts when you laugh. And we take that audio and we put it into other parts of the show where the laugh didn't really
laugh track. We add our own laugh track and that kind of stuff. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You're that live audience.
Live laugh track. Are we ready to do a show?
I think so. Oh, we've got a good crowd in there already. Look at this.
Let's make showings. Hello, everyone. Okay, time for science. Our audios are good, at least in my end of things. I'm not seeing the chat room telling me that everything's poorly. So, yeah, Shubru, you're not losing your mind. Everyone else is crazy.
Oh, Dave Robinson, I wish I had seen this story sooner. Something about beavers in Iraq.
I don't know about that, but there is, but we could have after show beavers in Iraq in the after show. Maybe we'll also talk about parrots and opiate addictions in Afghanistan. But that's in the after show. So stick around for that. And yeah, no new glasses yet because I have yet to go to an optometrist. I just know that I will get them at some point this year.
Yeah, maybe wait for the cases to drop since, you'll have somebody like literally in your face.
I'm kind of waiting to find
ophthalmologist or is it ophthalmologist?
Optometrist. Just to test the eyes and do the thing and say, here's your eyeglass prescription. Yes, that will happen eventually. It's a 2021 adventure. Hello, Twitch. Hello, YouTube. Hello, Facebook. Hello, web chat. Hello, live. We are going live in 3, 2. This is TWIS. This Week in Science, episode number 807, recorded on Wednesday, January 13th, 2021. Why is science so hot? I'm Dr. Kiki, and tonight we will fill your head with heat, herps, and hope. But first...
Disclaimer. Aside from the occasional constant need to do things for others, jobs, family, friends, other social constructs of tasks that require attention paying, there are many ways to be in the world. Life is a choose-your-own-adventure book where you can flip pages based on choices of whim or reason. Assuming you don't have any missing pages and do have the ability to read, life can take you just about anywhere you want it to. Within reason, but without limitations. Wherever you choose, whatever you choose, you will gain new knowledge, meet interesting people, visit strange places, even if that strange place is your own hometown where, if you haven't noticed, is much stranger than you think. If you get too bored, you can flip the page and set off on an adventure, making all the choices that lead you from one encounter to the next. One of the places your page flipping has taken you is here. The reason you are here is because of everything that has ever happened, every choice ever made, even by other people. The sum total of all history, human or otherwise, has led to this. What happens on the next page should be obvious by now. It's This Week in Science, coming up next.
I've got the kind of mind that can't get enough. I want to learn everything. I want to fill it
Good science to you, Kiki and Blair.
And a good science to you too, Justin, Blair, and everyone out there. Welcome to another episode of This Week in Science. We are back. Oh, we have come through this past week of events and things in the world to talk about science. We're here to bring you that science that makes you feel so good and happy because there is progress being made somewhere in the world. I have stories tonight about hot oceans, a hot planet, and hot new mRNA vaccines. What do you have for us, Justin?
Oh, that's a good question. Let's see. I have got a couple of stories about ancient human persistence, Ukrainian melting pot, baby megalodons, and dire wolf DNA. No baby, the other thing. Actually, I have baby sharks as well. I have baby megalodons and baby sharks.
Justin, you're encroaching on my territory.
A little bit.
All the animals outside the animal corner. I'm feeling a bit spacey tonight, but Blair,
Yes.
what did you bring for the animal corner?
Oh my goodness. It was very hard. There was lots of good animal stories this week, so I understand why Justin brought so many. I was torn. But I brought a story about snakes, a story about spiders, and a story about jellyfish.
Ooh, this sounds like a fun vertebrate animal corner.
Yes.
And if it's almost appropriate for Halloween, but that's still 10 months away.
It's Halloween in January.
January.
Every month is Halloween month.
Okay. Hey, we got a show to do, people.
Oh, right. Okay.
4 hours.
Okay. Yeah, a 4-hour show. If you have not yet subscribed to This Week in Science, you can find us on YouTube, Facebook, and on Twitch. On YouTube and Facebook, we are This Week in Science. On Twitch, TWIS Science, TWISCIENCE. And you can look for This Week in Science on all the podcast directories and find us and subscribe if that's what you wish to do. You can also find us at our website, twis.org, for more information about stories and the show and hosts and all the things. But now it's time for science. Let's make it hot in here. A little hot in here. Let's make it hot in the ocean. They're getting really oceany hotness. It's not
Technical
good.
term.
Yes, technical term. The water is heating up, and we are the proverbial frog in the boiling water that's not yet boiling, but is warming slowly. Although it's not us in the oceans, it's all the fish and other organisms that live in the oceans. A research study that was published in Advances in Atmospheric Sciences this past week found that the oceans really, really, really are warming up quite a lot. They discovered that, let's see, let me get the numbers right here. The Earth's oceans warmed anywhere from 1 to 20 sextillion joules since 2019. Now, what, may you ask, is a joule? I mean, a sextillion is big. That's like a trillion billion, or a quintillion million, or a million quintillion, if you want to turn it around that way. There are possibly about 300 sextillion stars in the observable universe, okay?
This makes it sound like the oceans are boiling.
It does! The amount of energy that has been dumped into the oceans, that they have heated up, the amount of energy. And this is a joule. Joules are measured in kilograms times meters squared per second squared, meters squared seconds over second squared, or Newton meters, the amount of force it takes to move an object, a meter, or it is the energy dissipated as heat when 1 amp of current passes through 1 ohm of resistance for a second. 1 joule is also equal to the heat required to raise the temperature of 1 gram of water by 0.24 degrees Celsius.
Okay.
And so they looked at the upper 2,000 meters of the ocean and found that they contained 234 sextillion joules more than the average over 1981 to 2010. So it's a lot. And an article from Science News equates it to about enough energy has been absorbed in the last year to potentially heat to boil 1.3 billion kettles of water. So if you wanted a lot of tea, last year really would have done it for us.
Yeah.
But that's it. There's a wide variation between 1 to 20 sextillion joules.
Well, but also how many kettles of water are in the ocean? Because you have to think about that energy spread over.
And that's
Well,
and that's why I wanted to say
it's just the surface of the ocean.
This
too.
is just the
It's
surface
still
of the
big.
ocean. It's the heating.
really
The
big.
oceans are big. Yeah. This is the amount of energy. The oceans are not yet boiling. We don't have to go, I'm the frog and I didn't realize I was boiling yet. But we kind of do have to start sounding that alarm because as the oceans heat up, that's going to change their ability to hold CO2. It's going to change their ability to do all sorts of things. We're going to see more ocean acidification. We're going to see more CO2 ending up in the atmosphere. I know, Blair, you work on this and communicate these kinds of risks all the time, but
so
huge.
one of the main things that we as land-dwelling individuals have to worry about with the ocean's heating is the changing of ocean currents, which change air currents, which change weather, which we were talking about last week with the cold snap that certain areas on the planet had over the past couple of months. But
Spain.
Yeah.
There was
Right now.
snow in Madrid, is snow in Madrid for the first time in 50 years.
Yeah, it's happening now.
Yeah, and so I mean that's why the communication group I'm with, Noki, talks about the Earth or the oceans as climate's heart, because that's exactly what it does, right? And so when you heat it up really quickly, it puts stress on this circulation system, and so the movement of hot and cold water affect the movement of hot and cold air, which totally mess up our land-based weather systems.
Yeah. And when weather systems change over time because climate is changing, that means different organisms are able to survive. It changes survivability in different areas. And so there are going to be huge impacts in the next few years. But anyway, on to more bitey things. Justin, tell me about sharks or megalodon.
Megalodons are sharks.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is kind of follows what you're talking about, the warming oceans a little bit. The last time we were in the carbons per what's it's in the atmosphere was when the megalodon was in existence, the super giant enormous shark, which isn't actually as super giant enormous as I think people think it is, because media has shown it as even monstrously bigger. It's still big. I mean, they can reach 50 feet.
Yeah, it's like the size of a school bus as a shark.
It's longer than a school bus. It's longer than the longest school bus you've ever seen. It's another like 10 feet longer than that, which is huge. That's pretty massive, right? So this was, they were looking at when they discovered that when they gave birth, the babies were about the size, even maybe a little bit bigger than an adult human. They were 6'6" longer, 2 meters in length at birth, which is kind of weird for a fish to give. It's a live birth by a fish.
It's kind of a live birth. It's a live birth, like written really light in pencil because there's still an egg. The egg hatches internally. So it's just like some snakes do that too.
Yes. So, and actually, I guess some sharks to this day kind of do this.
Yeah, sharks do that. Yeah.
But not all of them, I guess.
Not all of them.
So what this shark would do is they're born, these eggs, they hatch inside the megalodon mom, and then they need something to eat as they're growing to 6'6", right? So they start eating the other eggs for each other. And that's how they survive. So that was sort of an interesting story. but then the reason that one so much caught my, I mean, that's just what do you call it? Ophagy. Some sort of internal cannibalism. It's going on pre-birth cannibalism, eating your siblings. It's just one method of survival. Anyway, that's published in the journal Scientific Reports. Or no, that's not in Scientific Reports. Where is that? That's in the journal Historical Biology. In Scientific Reports is the other story that caught my eye going along with this, which is research that was done. New England Aquarium found as climate change causes oceans to warm, baby sharks are born smaller and exhausted, undernourished, and having a harder time surviving as ocean temperatures warm. Which baby sharks are usually actually pretty small. So then you can see sort of why was megalodon so big, and why was it having such big babies in those olden times of warmer oceans? Because it had to. That's how they survived.
There's a lot of competition in the oceans back then. There's lots of big bads around.
It's a big bad things. Yeah. Yeah, it says co-author and associate professor Jody Rummer, Wheeler's, who's one of the co-supervisors at James Cook University, says the waters of the Great Barrier Reef will likely experience summer averages near or even exceeding 31 degrees Celsius, which is a pretty warm day in California, 87.8 degrees Fahrenheit, by the end of the century. Sharks do not care for their eggs after they are laid, meaning shark eggs must be able to survive unprotected for up to 4 months. Rumor cites rising ocean temperatures is a major concern for the future of sharks, particularly those that are laying eggs. So megalodon back in the day had the solution. Just let them chill for the time, get big inside mama, and then spit them out.
Mama has to be big enough, though, for the babies to grow inside. So it just, everything has to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Blair, do you know if there are any sharks that do
tiger sharks?
Is it tiger sharks have live birth?
Yeah, there's quite a few actually. I'm trying to remember. It's kind of a grab bag. It's about a half and half, I think, of sharks, but a lot of sharks still give live birth.
But this
my aquarium days are too far behind me.
I only know tiger sharks because it's mentioned in the study.
Silvertip, hammerheads, white tip reef sharks, lemon sharks, blue sharks, mako sharks, bull sharks.
Right. Yeah. But if sharks become affected, if sharks end up scrawnier because the temperatures are off, then they're not going to be able to get the food that they want. They're not going to be able to fight off other sharks the way that they need to. They're not going to be able to fight off other competitors, and sharks will not survive. And sharks are important for ecosystems.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I mean, there's lots of questions. Do we know if the egg case of sharks for sharks that lay egg cases, are those impacted by temperature or carbon dioxide content? We don't know that yet.
Right. And also, they also mentioned that one of the strategies they've seen is for the baby shark in the unhatched shark to start devouring the egg yolk or egg casing sooner for nourishment, which also makes them born sooner, I guess, because they hatch earlier, basically. But they're devouring any resources they get there. Shubru in one of the chats says, when you run across a shark skin diving, they all look 50 feet long. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I can believe that.
Absolutely. All right. So from sharks, let's move on to jellies. We're going to stay in the oceans for a minute.
Jellies, aka jellyfish. They're wild. If you've ever sat and watched them in an aquarium, I know they're like nature's lava lamp. They're perfect. They're great to watch. There's just amazing, graceful movement to them. And if you pay close attention, I've often wondered, it looks like they shouldn't be able to go anywhere. It looks like they're moving the same water out and in, kind of, with their bell. So anyway, researchers from University of South Florida uncovered how they're so good at swimming. They're actually considered one of world's most efficient swimmers. And so actually what they do is they make a wall out of water to push away from. So let me explain. They produce 2 vortex rings, donut-shaped bodies of fluid underneath their translucent bodies, the way they move. And they spin in opposite directions, which means they push against each other. And it creates basically a wall for them to then get leverage against as they squeeze and reopen. So it creates what they call a ground effect force. So it's like they're pushing off from something. This is actually the same way airplanes take off, which is very interesting. So during takeoff, the air squeezes between the airplane and the ground, which builds pressure and forces the boost that gets the plane off of the runway. And so these jellies are using these 2 vortex rings instead of ground to get this resistance and create lift. So they have this virtual wall. And this is something that they have never seen before in the animal realm, this phenomenon of pushing away from a solid boundary where there is no boundary. And of course,
where there is no solid. It's a liquid.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. These little bags of water have figured out how to do this. It's crazy. But they now, of course, are looking at this as a way to engineer vehicles to take advantage of this phenomenon, so they can develop underwater vehicles that can be equipped with sensors that monitor the ocean without disruption. Because the other thing, these jellies, they don't create a lot of disruption around them. They move so smoothly that this could be something that would be really beneficial to create. Aside from it being something that takes very little energy to begin with, it would also create very little disturbance.
Yeah, if you could create something that has that flexible form factor to be able to create that motion, to create the force itself, that would be a pretty cool underwater sub, right? The submarine would be pretty amazing.
Yeah. Then slap on those chromatophores we talked about a couple weeks ago. You're good to go.
Oh my gosh. I someday do want to be inside a jellyfish themed submarine. That would be amazing. With a clear dome with chromatophors, and you sit inside of it, and then it has like the whoosh, whoosh.
You might really have to take a lot of Dramamine before that, because you'd be doing a lot of this.
A lot of this. Yeah. No. Down and up.
It could make you really sick, I think.
Down and up. If you have motion sickness problems, it may be an issue. Yes.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Not quite the same as those smooth jets of water. Yeah, it's so interesting how we go from, though, in figuring out this new method of movement, and then immediately someone starts thinking, how can we start using that?
Wow.
Yeah. What does that mean for the future of spacecraft, too?
Oh, space jellies.
UFOs? Space jellies? Come on.
I love it.
Let's make it go. All right. I have a story. More hot stuff for me. This time it's a hot and rocky planet. A distant planet found around one of the oldest stars in our galaxy. This last week, researchers from University of California, Riverside, reported on their discovery using the TESS, Transiting Exoplanet Survey Satellite, the TESS satellite, to inspect using the Keck Observatory a star with a planet around it, and yes, identified this little planet that's not so little. It's a super Earth. It's about 3 times as massive as our planet, and it orbits really close to its sun, its star, so that it whips around the planet during one Earth day about 2 times. Goes 2 days worth of orbits around its star. It's close in, which means it's hot. It's up to 2,000 degrees Kelvin on the surface of this super Earth-like planet. They have determined, however, that because of the density, it's very similar in density, even though it's 3 times as massive. It's very similar in density to the Earth. And so they're thinking this is like a proto-rocky planet. It's around a star that the reason they didn't expect to find it there, because this was a star that doesn't have a lot of metals that are used for planet construction. It's in this really old area of our galaxy, the galactic thick disk, and stars are old. They don't have these elements that are used for building rocky planets. And so they're like, oh, we'll just find another gassy giant there. But no, because of the mass and the density, they're really thinking that this is a hot, rocky, super Earth-like planet close to its star. And the interesting aspect to that is because the star is so old, because this is such an old part of our galaxy, this suggests that rocky planets have been around since the beginning, since as soon as there was stuff to start clumping together as more than just sticky gases, clumpy gases, that rocky planets started forming. And so maybe we'll be finding more rocky planets, more places. Although they'd kind of be like sponge cake planets, not quite as, not more tufa-ish, not quite as dense.
So lacking metals, does that mean like civilization would never leave the Stone Age? But the Stone Age would continue to advance the technology, so it would be like the Flintstones. They'd have like big stone computers and stone cars, and you just keep going with what you've got to work with, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine if, say one of these older rocky, quote unquote, rocky super Earths or planets, they have a similar, more massive, similar density. So the gravity is going to be interesting. They're not going to want to go anywhere, but they're not going to have stuff like tungsten, and they're not going to have metals that we use to create circuits. So maybe they would never embark on a computerized civilization. Maybe they would never find that kind of technology.
And I think I'm starting to confused. Like it's 3 times the size of the Earth, but the density is the same. But that just means its relative densities is. So does that mean it's still more like gravity is still like 3 times as much then?
Right, because it's more massive,
more dense. It's just bigger.
Yeah,
that's rough. That's a rough start. Like I mean, I guess you're used to the gravity you grow up with. So to any, like, does that mean that you have like spindly creatures to handle the gravity, or are they just really bulky and strong, but then they're too heavy? It's very interesting. Right.
But if you don't have a lot of metals, I mean, even though stuff like magnesium is, a trace metal, we still need that for our biology. So
we grew up with it. See, this is the other weird thing. It's like
how would that evolve? Yeah,
you don't have it. You figure something out.
This is my argument every time we talk about what it takes to make life. This is just what we know it takes to make life
here.
You know what we should do? We should go investigate life on another planet and see how it came to be.
Why don't you go, Justin? Just go check it out.
I actually like this planet.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to stay here. But I know there's plenty of people who don't, so they can go.
Right. Well, this planet is called Planet TOI for the TESS object of interest 561b. That's what it's called, but they have confirmed its presence. It's big, not very dense, and it's hot. And they didn't expect it to be there. So that in itself is a wonderful scientific surprise. All right, so moving from my hot stuff, you've got a melting pot.
Yeah.
For fondue?
What's going on?
Yeah, it's really interesting. So this is the largest study of genetic diversity in Ukraine, which is apparently the largest country that is completely within Europe. This is published in the open science journal GigaScience. It was an international effort, meaning it was researchers not just from the Ukraine, but also from the US and China. And this is also part of the Central Europe Center for Genomic Research in Ukraine. This is sort of an interesting thing. So human migration into Europe, or at least the most recentest big phase of what we consider to be modern day Europeans, came out of the Caucasus and like spread through what is Ukraine. This is where we were starting to do a lot of farming. This is where we were domesticating animals. This is where humans sort of were before they did the 5,000 year ago Bronze Age-ish sort of push to the rest of Europe. And for some reason, it's sort of funny how it's listed here, but it's like nobody thought there was going to be much genetic diversity in Ukraine. Well, it turns out that it's got about a quarter of the genetic diversity of all of Europe is in Ukraine after this genetic study. So they had what's really interesting. Okay, so they had the prehistoric and historic crossroads for the spread of humans across Europe, also into Asia. Migration events included modern human expansion into Neanderthal territory. So there's all of that is there. Movements of nomads and early farmers just starting to domesticate plants and animals. Great human migrations during the Middle Ages. And then they brought everyone back again to do the trade routes for the Silk Road. That was also in Ukraine. So like they had all the expansion out, and then they said, whoa, come back. We're going to do all the trading here too. We're going to make this a really thing. So lead investigator Taras Oleksik, at Oakland University says, our study shows there is significant genetic diversity in Ukraine, a country that had not been prioritized in genome surveys. We found more than 13 million genetic variants among the DNA samples, nearly 500,000 of which were previously undocumented. Some of the interesting finds of this, though, is that they found a decreased susceptibility to breast cancer throughout the genes that were most common there. And there's another, what is it? Some of the mutations have been linked also to autism, which is a little bit higher frequency there, and lower in Leber congenital amaurosis, LCA, which is a rare inherited eye disease. It's also low there. So it's kind of an interesting survey there. It's funny, though, that they mentioned like nobody thought this would. That seems like a pretty good, if you just do the history of human migration, that seems like it would be immediately sort of an interesting place to look, where a bunch of humanities, sort of had an early precursor to what became Europe and what ended up in Asia, and then the remixing of it back again. But yeah, who knew? Ukraine, the most genetically diverse country in Europe.
That's awesome. It just, again, it's that we have these human preconceptions based on politics, based on culture, society as we see it now in the modern world. And sometimes it really takes looking at things from a different direction to be able to change that perspective. Or, somebody saying, let's do this. Nobody's done this before. And then you come out with something surprising.
Yeah. Well, for how much of like diversity studies was the Ukraine just part of the USSR? So
exactly,
it wasn't really looked at as a separate entity from Russia.
Right.
Yeah.
The other thing that's sort of interesting about it too is that it's from a historical perspective of learning about human migration, origin stories, and all this. It's very historically interesting. But what you also then see now are genetic underpinnings for disease that might be common in Europe, but are sort of being excluded from this area. They also found a bunch of disease-associated genetic markers that they don't know what they do exactly. They don't know how they're related to disease. But in a number of them, they're very unique to populations of Ukraine, which means that you can also then study disease outcomes or prevalences in the Ukraine. You find new correlations between genetic markers that are associated with other diseases. And it also means that you can start to, now that you can find regions where the gene doesn't have that marker or has a slightly different marker, and then the prevalence is higher, you can actually start attacking disease at a genetic level when you have that decent amount of variation and can show a precursor genome to what is now more prevalent or less prevalent in another region, you can isolate diseases that way genetically, and start to come up with treatments too. So it's more than just a history lesson. It's actually a future launching point for genetic disease-based therapies.
Very cool. Let's launch back to space. I have another space story. Get on board. Yeah, let's get on board this one. Once upon a time, a bright light in the universe was thought to be a supernova. But then University of Hawaii astronomers checked it out and they decided that that was wrong. Science.
That's a mediocre nova.
It's just not a nova. It's just
not a nova at all.
Nova light.
Nova light. Yeah, they discovered looking at it. They're like, hey, let's check out this galaxy, and it's not a supernova. It's a periodically flaring galaxy that has a supermassive black hole at its center that goes and bursts with energy every 114 days. Yeah.
Like an intergalactic Old Faithful.
Yes, exactly. And they one of the researchers actually did call it an Old Faithful and said that knowing the schedule of this extragalactic Old Faithful allows us to coordinate and study it in more detail. They looked at using Assassin. Assassin is also known as the All Sky Automated Survey for Supernovae. I kind of love that. ASASSN is the acronym. All Sky Automated Survey for Supernovae. Assassin 14KO was detected by this global network of 20 robotic telescopes headquartered at the Ohio State University. And then they started looking at all the data on the phenomenon and went, hey, wait a minute, looking at this galaxy, that was not just one supernova, but we have a series of 17 regularly spaced flares. And so they predicted when the next flare would take place, and they checked it out, and lo and behold, ta-da, it flared. And they have been able to see these flares over and over again since then. And what they think is going on is that there is a tidal disruption event occurring. And a tidal disruption event is when a star is orbiting around a supermassive black hole and just kind of dips into it just a little bit, and the black hole goes and sucks off some of that star material, and then a bunch of stuff flares out, and the star loses a bit of itself every time. And so this star is slowly being eaten by its black hole. Poor star out there. They estimate that the amount of material that's being lost with each of these bursts, based on the distance and the brightness of the burst, that it's equal to 3 times the mass of Jupiter each pass.
Ooh, that's quite a bit.
Yeah. So how long will the star last?
Yeah.
How long will it last? We don't know. Yeah.
Too bad it's not doing it in reverse, like harvesting the black hole for energy. That's gonna be the ultimate.
Isn't that the next step, right? We're gonna be like, oh, we can use the sun for energy, harvest solar energy, and then we're gonna use the black hole at the center of our galaxy.
Yeah,
totally
why not?
Makes sense. Why not?
Yeah, plenty of juice there to run all of your electronics.
Or is it anti-juice?
I don't know.
No, it's just energy. It's still energy. It's not a different universe in a black hole. It's our same stuff. It's just compact, and so it's like a big
still
battery.
Matter.
It's like a
still
massive.
Energy.
Well, massive. It's the biggest battery, the
It's
longest
infinite
lasting
juice,
battery
is what you're
the
saying.
universe has ever made.
All right. On that note, thank you for being a part of TWIS and joining us tonight. If you just tuned in, this is This Week in Science. We're here to talk about science. If you are interested in some kind of TWIS merchandise, head over to twis.org and click on our Zazzle link. Grab yourself a mug or a mouse pad, face mask, or any other item. We've got some cool sweatshirts in there too. Blue-footed boobies. They're amazing. We love them. So, all right, let's come on back. Come on back to TWIS right now for the COVID update.
Oh, no.
It's come back again. The COVID update has come back.
Do you have some good news this week?
There is some good news.
Oh,
it's not,
thank goodness.
It's not all good news, but there's some good
I
news.
just need some.
Okay.
Because all I'm hearing in the news is bad in relation to COVID. So I need some good.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to start off with the good news.
That's okay, as long as it's coming.
Okay. All right. New variants of SARS-CoV-2 are considered problematic as they spread globally. The UK's B117 and South Africa's B1351 each have several mutations in their spike protein, which current estimates suggest increase the infectiveness, transmissibility by 50%. That's a lot. That goes from if you had 10 people, one person infected, if you had 10 people, you have it, and it used to be 10 people, one of them was infected, then you get like one more, so you'd have like 11 people infected. But now that would be like 15 people infected. The numbers go up.
So part of that, I'm still trying to figure out, like, why is it more contagious? Because
because the spike protein grabs onto the ACE2 receptor better, and that allows it. The mutations allow it to grab on, hold on, and gain access.
I think about it like the really hard puzzles where every single nub is slightly different is like the current COVID. I don't know. I'm just trying. It's very loose. But then like the toddler puzzles. Do you know like toddler puzzles? Like the nubs are all very uniform and they're very easy to match up with each other, even if it's not the right fit. I think of it like that. Like it's easier for them to bind, essentially.
So, and that's the important thing, because if that's all it is, vaccine still works. It's still same binding sites. It's still same spikes. It's just being more effective at doing it, which does then mean that you can have a lighter exposure.
Yes. So you potentially don't have to be exposed to as much virus to become infected.
So a smaller inoculation can have the same effect.
Yeah,
which is
right. And that's the other side of this. While more people will become infected as a result of these mutations, it doesn't seem to make the severity of the disease any worse. But we are going to be seeing, and we are seeing, more children infected, more younger age groups infected. And as that happens, more people are going to be hospitalized, and more people will die, which this is not good news at all, because we are already maxed out with our wintertime here in the Northern Hemisphere.
Yeah, no, that was one of the theories about the children not getting it as bad as just smaller lungs, inhaling less air from the environment.
And also fewer ACE2 receptors was the other idea, is that because they don't have as many of the receptors, that's part of it. But now, because of the virus holding on better, then smaller lungs, it's not as good. But the other issue with this is if more people are getting infected, that also means more opportunities for mutations, for more mutations, and the possibility of vaccine escape.
Well, and not to mention that if we think that kids are more easily going to be infected, they're not getting vaccinated. So that's not scary.
Not yet. So yes, let's continue on the vaccination. Hopefully we can continue in a way that gets as many people vaccinated as possible. It's going to be slow going and hopefully faster as we get better at it. But at this point, the best ways to reduce the spread and the mutation, if you think of it not just as the possibility of spread, but also the possibility of mutation and this thing going on longer and longer and longer. Let's all work together, reduce it, masking. Outdoors is okay. Don't get mad at people for going outdoors. Outdoors is air, it's ventilation, it's good. Don't socialize indoors. Try and stay out of the indoors with people as much as possible. Socially distance. It's great. These are things you can do. And wash your hands. Okay, here is a little bit of good news for you, Blair.
Right.
You love the convalescent plasma.
Oh, yes. And then they told us it was no good, and I was sad.
Well, so it's not great, but it does seem to work. A new study in the New England Journal of Medicine looked at a number of elderly hospitalized patients, and they were given not just regular doses, but very high antibody concentration. They call it a high-titer antibody regimen. But it's a high concentration of antibodies from convalescent plasma given very early in the infection, within the first 72 hours, seem to reduce severity of the disease. So the patients that had gotten it were less likely to get intubated, were less likely to have severe effects of the disease. And they don't have a significant effect, but there's it's trending in the direction of possibly leading to fewer deaths. So caught early with mild symptoms, you get in there early. If you're over 72, maybe you can get one of these high-titer convalescent plasma treatments.
Neat.
Yeah, so that's some good news on the treatment front. Vaccines. JAMA published this last week a study looking at the number of individuals in the United States stating that they will get a COVID-19 vaccine. That number dropped last year from 74% saying they would get a vaccination in April to 56% saying they would do so in early December. And so that 56% is with the messaging about the safety of the vaccines becoming available. There's obviously counter messaging going on, and there needs to be a huge educational push for vaccination moving forward in 2021.
Can I also say, I feel like I was talking to Brian about this earlier, and I think that I hope that this will end up not being an accurate number, mainly because of, I'm going to say it, even though it's a gross word, but FOMO, right? Where if people can post pictures of themselves getting the vaccine, ask your friends and family if they got it over and over and over once it becomes available, there will be a certain amount of social pressure. It's, maybe they'll get passed over the first time, they'll say no, and then they might start to, go, oh, shoot, all my friends who got vaccines are able to go to Europe. Maybe I should get one. So the hope is that, yes, there might be distrust now, but if people continue to share online and foster a sense of trust in this process, and also share when you do have symptoms. If they're mild, then it seems less scary. Talk to them on the other side of it. Hopefully that can improve that number as things become real and available.
Yeah.
I hope.
Yep.
So and also the category of company that you keep when you choose to vaccinate versus when you choose not to vaccinate. The man in the fur hat with the painted face screaming as they tried to insurrect the Capitol. Aside from believing that political leaders are Satan worshipers, also an anti-vaxxer. Just fun
and he
fact.
only eats organic food, and
that's probably not the worst thing. But there is a category of, you have to look who's sitting next to you in the sort of choice bench. I'm imagining a place where, like, if you could just picture everybody else sitting down with you at this certain table that you've decided to join. I don't believe the earth is round. And you go sit at that table and you look to the left and the right and you go, no, I don't belong here. I should be at a different time. I don't know what happened. I need to get up and move over there.
Move to the TWIS table. Come on, we'll talk about science. It'll be good.
You're going to find the same thing with the vaccinations as well. And so I implore all of you who are listeners to this show to sit with us at the Get Vaccinated table. But also, I also caution all of our listeners, the 6 foot social distancing, make it like 20 as much as you can. Like, it's still not
As
enough.
far as you can go. Yeah, just distance is great.
Yeah, and I think the other real quick piggyback on that is 6 feet social distancing is great, but also make sure that you're not cross-pollinating social groups. You 6 feet social distance with one group of friends on Friday, and then another group of friends on Saturday, and then another group of friends on Sunday. So keep that in mind too.
Yeah, and I was going to bring up, I read an article in Wired today. It was a terribly written article about a very cool project out of the Bay Area. It's called the Microcovid project, and it was started by a woman who works in risk analysis and risk reduction. And it's a project taking all of the possible risks that you might enjoy in life and figuring out, basically giving everyone a budget of microcovids. These are your currency to spend during a week or during a year. And based on it, it's a calculator that will help you determine what is low risk and high risk for various activities. If you go visit microcovid.org, www.microcovid.org. And the article, if you want to learn about the people who made it, it's on Wired this week. But it was, I read the whole article just trying to find the link to the project. And it's one of those things where like, come on. But anyway, great project. Very interesting if you're into numbers and analyzing risk and thinking about your risk in a very analytical way. This might be an interesting tool for you. Moving forward in the COVID news, a study in The Lancet reports that in-hospital mortality for COVID-19 is higher than the flu across all age groups. But the interesting result from this study, we knew it was higher than the flu at this point, but for adolescents, kids 11 to 17, it's especially striking at 10 times higher mortality rate. So less kids are ending up in the hospital from COVID-19, or have to this point in time, but it is affecting them. If they are in the hospital, the outcome is potentially worse by 10 times. That's a 10 times multiplier. So
how many 15-year-olds do you know that died of flu?
None.
So, yeah.
And that was the case. They had if you look at the numbers in the study, we'll have the link in our show notes. But the numbers, it's basically like, and this large number of kids died from COVID and only one died from the flu out of like 800. So it's a 10-time multiplier. It's totally different.
Yeah, and the comorbidities for dying from flu are totally different from the comorbidities for dying from COVID. Yeah. So that's a whole thing too.
Yeah. And then final good news story. This kind of boosts us out of our COVID update and into thinking about other diseases and how we're going to be addressing things moving forward. Moderna, the company that has brought us one of the current COVID vaccines that we are using here in the United States and globally, it is going to expand its mRNA vaccine efforts this year. It's going to include 4 seasonal flu vaccines. It's going to be looking at doing that, HIV and the Nipah virus, and is going to be looking for clinical proof of concept for 13 of their ongoing programs that are in clinical trials as of this year. So Moderna, they hit it this year with the mRNA vaccine, and they are going to run with the investments that they've gotten. And hopefully there will be many, many successes looking forward. So positive thought moving forward. We may be dealing with a lot of viruses from an mRNA perspective in the future.
Very exciting. That's some nice silver lining out of all this.
Out of all of this, the investment, Justin, you talked about before, the history of mRNA vaccines and how long people have been working on this. And it's just amazing. And I think what we're going to be seeing after the investments of this last year because of COVID, it will reap so many benefits. I mean, the pandemic is awful, but it's going to have benefits in other areas moving forward. We will come back from that. This is This Week in Science. You want to help us grow? Tell a friend about TWIS today. All right, you know what time it is?
What time is it?
It's time for Blair's Animal Corner.
Blair?
She loves our creatures, great and small. Biped, millipede, no pet at all. You want to hear about animals? She's your girl. Except for giant pandas and squirrels.
What you got, Blair?
I have spiders and snakes. You're welcome, everyone.
Hey!
Yay! I feel about spiders and snakes the opposite of how I feel about pandas and squirrels. So, hooray! I hope everyone can handle these stories. Okay, so the first one is about a snake moving in a way that has never been seen before. There are 4 recognized types of locomotion that we have seen in snakes for about 100 years. Rectilinear, lateral undulation, sidewinding, and concertina. And now we see number 5. This is totally anecdotal and totally an accident. This was looking at invasive brown tree snakes living on Guam. And they specifically have been just eating all of the birds, which is terrible. So they were introduced in the 1940s, early 1950s. And pretty much right away, bird populations started to plummet. And now most of the native forest birds are gone on Guam, just decimated, right? So that's the colloquial version of decimated, not reduced by 10. So anyway, so they've been trying to figure out what can deter brown tree snakes, what can keep them from climbing and eating birds, because there's only a little bit of Micronesian starlings left and other cave nesting birds that they're trying to keep alive on Guam. So they put up these things, these baffles. They have these 3-foot long metal baffles. They're these big kind of slick cylinders around these trees to try to keep snakes from climbing up to bird boxes. And they were watching 4 hours of video to see how these snakes kind of approached and to see if it deterred them or not and how it all worked. Then all of a sudden, they saw the snake form what looked like a lasso around the cylinder and wiggle its body up. So when you think about, like, on the show, yeah, and we're showing a video right now, it really does look like they're looping their body around and they have their neck kind of going under the loop. So their tail is holding their neck against this baffle that leads up to the bird box. And they're shimmying up. So
they're using tension, like this is like a lasso, or I mean, any sailor knows how to work a knot, and
it was all I could do not to sing the song from Mulan, because it's very much how Mulan goes up the giant cylinder in the montage where she's learning how to be a soldier. Anyway. All that aside, you can all sing along at home if you know what I'm talking about. But so they were slipping up. What were you gonna say, Justin?
Yeah, this just looks like I've seen this like technique with humans using a strap, like when you're tree climbing, like an arborist would use. Where they put the strap on the other side and climb up a little bit and use the strap as leverage all the way up. It looks very much like this.
Yeah, it looks very calculated, I guess, is the way I would describe it.
Totally calculated.
Yeah.
That snake has a goal.
Oh, yeah.
And so I had to do some research of my own here, because the first thing I thought of was, well, it wasn't that long ago we reported on flying snakes, which were really gliding snakes. How did they get up the trees? Well, they actually use kind of a concertina movement. So they kind of accordion up, they double over a rough part of the tree and then extend, and then double over and then extend. So that's how they climb trees. So this is totally brand new to the knowledge of snake researchers. But it does also look very difficult. So in the video, they saw that they slip a lot. They stop to rest. They breathe really heavily. It's not easy for them, but they were able to do this. So first of all, they want to use this information now to develop a baffle that these tree snakes can't get around so that they stop eating these birds to extinction. But also, that means that there's this fifth form of snake locomotion. Was this a fluke? Was this something that only these snakes know how to do in this particular situation because of this particular deterrent? Or is this something that other snakes can do?
Right. And
we don't know. We don't know. That's hopefully there will be news about that soon.
Yeah, goal oriented. They know they're going to get up there and there's going to be an egg. There's going to be a little animal up there. They're going to be able to go, nom, 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 and eat it up.
Yeah. So there you go. But really the question is, why are they doing this instead of, if this is something that was developed to climb trees specifically, why are they doing this instead of concertina movement? Is there something where these snakes are from trees that are very, very slick, for example?
Well, not the trees, but did they just develop it to get past those metal baffles?
That's the question. Did they do it for this, or where they're originally from, because these guys are invasive, is there a natural application of this that they brought over?
Yeah.
Nobody's seen it before. Nobody's looked. We'll find out, hopefully, someday.
Go look at snakes at night. Snakes climbing trees.
It looks to if it's an innovation that they picked up on the fly and then taught to one another, that's a whole other layer of snake communication that I haven't seen before.
Well, and this is a snake using its own body to create tension. That's 100% different from all of the other types of locomotion that we've seen in snakes. This is such a novel behavior.
It's smart. It
is.
Necessity is the mother of invention.
Yeah, either it has historical roots we don't know about, or it's snakes adapting just so fast to a new challenge. Which is
I feel like it's the first. I feel like it's going to be
the second one is a bit terrifying.
A bit terrifying. Yeah. That's what I aim to inspire and mildly terrify. Moving on then to huntsman spiders creating traps in the forest.
Oh, another non-terrifying topic.
Slightly terrifying. So huntsman spiders in Madagascar. This is an international research team, 2 universities from Madagascar and 1 from Germany, looking at huntsman spiders. Huntsman spiders are named huntsman spiders because they hunt. They don't spin webs to catch their food. They actually inject venom into their prey by biting them and capture their prey that way. So it's a totally different method than most spiders we think about. And again, totally accidentally and anecdotally, these researchers have found huntsman spiders doing something crazy. They were walking through the forest. They were looking for frogs. They were trying to survey frogs, and they found a huntsman spider pulling a dead frog into what appeared to be a custom-made leaf trap. So not only is this spider being smart, but also potentially fabricating a trap. So they were looking at creatures living in a certain part of Madagascar. They came upon a huntsman spider in a tree eating a tree frog. They got closer to the spider, and it pulled the dead frog into what looked like a pouch, attempting to hide. It was 2 leaves, and on the back end, it had been sewn together with spider silk. So it's a little pocket.
They sewed it.
Wow.
So researchers came to believe
they made the little house
that the spider had created a leaf structure as an enticing trap for the frogs. So they found 3 other leaf structures in that area. No spiders inside at the time. And then they also found more of those structures the more they looked. But this was the only specific case where they caught a spider actively eating a frog inside of it. So it totally could have been a fluke. It could have been something spiders made for something else entirely. But the reason that they really think this is what it's for is that frogs are known to seek shelter during the hottest parts of the day. And it looks like the perfect place for a frog to go. So if you're a huntsman, you could kind of hang towards the back where it's shadowy, and the frog would come in to hide from the sun and get it. Yeah.
Nom, 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 nom.
So, of course, more research is required to not only watch them make these things, but also confirm that's what they're using them for. But it looks good. It looks like this is probably what's going on. So this is totally anecdotal. This is not a data set that we're working from here, but it really looks like these huntsman spiders. Yeah. It's a data set of 1 right now.
Yeah.
But it looks like these spiders are using leaves sewn with spider silk to make a trap.
Wait, Blair, don't go in that covered bus stop. Why not? Look at the edges. There's spider webs. Ah! What an awful world to live in, where you have to be afraid of just getting a little bit of shade. You might get eaten by a spider. That's not a good way to be.
Well, there's lots of things trying to eat tree frogs in the rainforest. It's pretty tough to be a frog in the rainforest. Everything's trying to eat you, even other frogs.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. But they have several observations, not just one observation. So
no, I love it. Trappers. Spiders are trapping frogs in the rainforest. That's amazing.
It's interesting, and you think of it because there are the funnel weaving spiders that
It's a great trap.
The funnel, and they sit at the end of it.
It's a trap.
The spider web is a trap, exactly.
Yeah, especially if you're an orb weaver, you're recreating it every night to make it extra see-through.
Yeah, but this
spiders, it's in their name.
Trapdoor.
Yeah,
trapped you. Yeah. So this doesn't. I mean, we think. Yes, when you start thinking about it, it doesn't seem like it's that much more of a step, but it is using things in the environment to accentuate what they already have. Ooh, and huntsmen are scary anyway. Yeah.
It could also just be laziness. Hey, instead of making the whole web, why don't we just put some of these leaves in there and just do a little webbing around the edges?
Yeah.
And it's a little less work for us.
And just hang out in the shade. Take the rest of the afternoon off.
Take the day off, and then the frog happens to show up. It's like, okay, hey, bonus.
I would say this is tool use. If
I would too.
It's using bits of the environment and in
tools.
I mean, and
physics, engineering. What would it be?
And then you have to, once you start digging into this, if they find more observations of this and its tool use, is this, how do they learn it? How do they come to do it? Is this random? Is it just one spider who figured it out? As far as I know, huntsman spiders don't stick around to. Do they take care of their young? Do they teach them the ways of the weaving?
No. I don't think so.
I want to know about spider school. I mean, when I learned,
huntsman spider makes a great mom. She will lay all 200 of her eggs inside an egg sac, which she places behind bark or under a rock. While the babies are developing, she will stand guard for 3 weeks without eating. I don't know after that, though.
What happens after that? I mean, I've seen the spiders that run around with their babies on their backs. What are those babies learning?
Let's see.
And again, it can just be genetic memory. I mean, nobody teaches you how to breathe. Yes. Nobody teaches your heart how to beat. And if you're a spider with a certain technique, nobody really needs to teach you that technique if it's hardwired. Your physiology, so to speak.
But this is unique. This is I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It's unique.
It's unique, but I wonder if it is. If you go back in time, maybe they were doing this on the ground with leaves on the ground for some other prey and an ancient spider. Like the genetic information is there throughout evolution, billions of years of trial and error on these things. Maybe you can access it. Maybe you can access innovation from a genetic memory that's not being used in generations. Who knows? We need to find out so that we can know. So then we can say, we know. That's who knows, us.
Yeah. And as far as tool use goes, I feel like defining tool use in animals is like defining consciousness in animals. It's the edges are so fuzzy. And I think that, I define a lot of things as tool use that other people do not. Yeah. But I don't know. It's hard to live in the natural world and not use any part of your environment to your benefit as a living thing.
So here's one of the things I would say about that, though. There's tool use, and then there's the story I'll talk about later, which is more human, how humans became reliant on a tool. We needed the tool for our main, for our survival. We became completely dependent on our tools at some point. The spider's web, the spider's silk, in a sense, is a tool. That it is completely, most spiders, I don't know, a lot of spiders seem very dependent on their web and the construction of this thing, the architecture, the building, the use of this tool to their survival. Now, they produce it themselves, but I don't think that's an out for calling it a tool to begin with. So, and it's one thing if something picks up a twig a couple of times and uses it. That's using a tool, but are they really dependent on that, or was this sort of a?
See, but that's the fuzzy edge right there.
That's a fuzzy edge. I feel like something like the web is the not fuzzy edge, though. I think that one is they have a tool, they create it themselves, and they use it as a tool to trap things, to lay eggs, to preserve meals, to create leaf traps. Okay, this is always can only be defined, I think, as a tool.
I would think so. I mean, it's constructed, but is it intentional or is it instinctual? And I think that is there intent or instinct? I think there's where we divide it. But this is This Week in Science. Thank you so much for being a part of the audience. You are the reason why we are able to do what we do every week. Thank you for your support. And if you are out there and wondering how you can help TWIS keep going and how you can help us keep growing, you can head over to twis.org and click on the Patreon button. And that will allow you to join our Patreon community where you can choose your level of support. There are also buttons at twis.org for PayPal donations if you would rather use PayPal. But on Patreon, you can choose your level of support. And if you support us at $10 or more a month, we will read your name off at the end of the show as one of our ongoing supporters. Be a part of bringing science and more sanity to more people by supporting TWIS. We really can't do this without you. Thank you for your support. All right, friends. Justin, what did you bring?
Hang on. I lost
Hang on. How did you lose the science?
I lost it. It's coming back. It's almost here. And aha! The human story begins with tool making. Well, I mean, there was constructs of humans, very generally ape-like things running around before we had tools. They had fingers, sort of a tool, even if you are using it instinctually. But there was this period where we sort of adapted to becoming more and more dependent on our tools. This was likely the thing that spurred everything from language use to full-time bipedalism, because over the course of millions of years, we were using tools and passing down that knowledge of tool use to next further generations. Once you get into the teaching thing, you really need to have language that's a little bit more precise, a little bit more detail-oriented, even if it's like, hey, watch me while I do this thing the entire time and then go try it yourself. Whatever the initial communication was. Olduvai Gorge, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site in Tanzania, is thought to be the cradle of humankind. because this is where they found lots of tools and hominins over the years. This is the location of Lewis and Mary Leakey's amazing discoveries. It is considered the origin point, or at least a critical step in human evolution. Fresh fieldwork from the site has found the gorge was used by early human ancestors through a wide diversity of habitats amidst environmental changes for a period of about 200,000 years. And this thing that's sort of called the Pass. So this is the rift system in Eastern Africa where stuff was sort of splitting apart. And it has, because it's split apart, you have these nice layers of antiquity where you can go back and dig in and see what was here at this age. You can go back pretty easily. So there's always been in my head a little bit like, well, it seems like humans started here, but this is also the easiest place to look. So it's the easiest place to find fossil records as well. So maybe that's why we find it all. Maybe humans were kind of a lot more places, but that's not even the point of this story. This story has to do with the fact that they also discovered that the humans persisted, and this would have been from 2 million years ago to about 1.8 million years ago. That the early humans persisted in this location despite fluctuating environments. They can show there was fossil mammals of wild cattle, pigs, hippos, panthers, lions, hyena, other primates. There's reptiles and birds together with a range of other creatures. And it shows that the habitat could change pretty dramatically over that 200,000 year period. You could have river, lake systems, fern meadows, woodland mosaics, naturally burned landscapes. There's palm groves at some point, dry steppes. There's volcanic activity taking place. Pretty diverse. And yet humans persisted. Actually, they left a couple of times and then would return to the area when it got a little bit nicer. So they did leave a couple of times. But the tools remained the same. So these are Olduvai stone tools. This is pebble and cobble cores. It's a very specific way of flaking to make axes and cutters and carvers, the sort of things that early humans would have used to render plants, animals, to maybe hunt with. Implication is that by 2 million years ago, early humans had the behavioral capacity to continually, consistently exploit a multitude of habitats using the same reliable stone toolkits. So when we're talking about tool use too, this is a tool that was being designed that went unchanged in this period of 200,000 years. That is passing down knowledge without, for anything that we have found, a written language, without an archive of written word or libraries. Maybe there was something written on a cave wall that we've missed that sort of details how to make these stone tools. We haven't found it yet. But to be able to pass down knowledge for 200,000 years is something we struggle with these days, passing down knowledge to a next generation. This is a very huge undertaking. Anyhow, so I thought that was very fascinating that humans were successful. And this is Homo habilis. So this is really early human. There's Homo habilis is nearby. This is probably Homo erectus. This is Homo habilis is nearby. There's also the Australopithecines nearby. So this is also a place where we may have done a little intermingling with other hominin types 1.8 million years ago. And then the next story I will take us to, that was in Eastern Africa. We'll now move to far Western Africa. And we'll move all the way up to modern humans. This is far Western Africa preserved ancient tool-making techniques the longest. So this fieldwork by Dr. Eleanor Skerry, head of the Pan-African Evolution Research Group at the Max Planck Institute for Science and Human History in Germany, and Dr. Kadi Nyang of the University of into Diop of Senegal, they documented the youngest known occurrence of Middle Stone Age. So this is Stone Age technology that persisted closest to the current day. What they found was there was Stone Age scrapers and points and tools that were being formed that they thought had been used between around 300,000 years ago and 30,000 years ago. So this is even a longer spread of time than those other tools. Passing down knowledge for about 300,000 years of the same tool types and techniques. And it was thought to die at around 30,000 years ago, because that's when these tools suddenly vanish. Well, they don't vanish. They're replaced by a sort of miniaturized, smaller is better, the new smaller smartphone, the new smaller pointy stone. To do finer work, more detailed work, sewing perhaps, that sort of thing. But they thought those types of tools were replaced 30,000 years ago by the very radically different modernization of tool types. And what they found is there's this whole region in this site that they were discovering where these early stone making techniques persisted another 20,000 years. So up to about 10, 11,000 years ago, they were still making the older version. And one of the things they point out is it doesn't mean that they weren't as smart as their neighbors, but what it indicates is that Western Africa, far Western Africa, was an extremely stable environment. Because one of the things that the argument they make is one of the things that required like all these different regions around them to modernize or change their tool sets is perhaps that the environment changed and that they needed to address new things. Whereas far Western Africa, things are just nice. Things stay nice. Old tools, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
You don't need to innovate if there is nothing changing. If everything's fine, you're like, I can live. No, I don't need that new thing. No, I'm good.
and it's such to have a 300,000 year passing down of knowledge is just an incredible feat.
It's amazing
by any measure. Yeah. And it's also they're also pointing out that yes, there were different societies in the area have different techniques, and sometimes those techniques for survival are based on the tool set. So if somebody does have the modernized tool set, their niche might be different. The things they pursue and hunt might be different. The plants that they use might even be different. So people mold themselves not only around their environment, but around their technology as well. So
I don't want to mold myself around my technology anymore. I don't like what it's reaping and sowing.
Too bad, I think.
Did you have one more story, Justin, about
Yeah. So I never
right?
saw the Game of Thrones TV show.
Yeah, you don't need to
read the books. The books are good.
Apparently they had dire wolves in there. So that means, I guess, that it took place in North America, because the dire wolves were common across North America until about 13,000 years ago, when they went extinct. So what this is just a quick off from published in Nature on January 13th. It shows that the dire wolves, which coexisted with the North American gray wolf, weren't related. Well, they're related, but they split off based on the genetics they were able to get from some dire wolf subfossils from Wyoming, Idaho, Ohio, and Tennessee. These are 50,000-year-old fossils. They did analysis of these fossils. They were enough to get DNA that could allow them to compare it to modern-day wolves, and they found they must have split 6 million years ago.
Whoa.
Well, what does that mean? Because it seemed very, if you picture a dire wolf, which I couldn't until I went and Googled a picture of it on the interwebs, which I'm not even sure is accurate. They look like a wolf.
It's a big wolf.
Well, not even really that much bigger. from at least what I was looking at.
Gray wolf size, right?
Yeah, gray wolf, which is a big wolf, but it's maybe slightly bigger, but about the same. And looks morphologically, they look the same, pretty much. But apparently, they based on this genetic analysis, the fact that they had overlapping territories, but they could not see any of the genetic intermixing. And even looking back 6 million years, there was a study a while back that said that the direwolf had more in common with an African jackal, I think it was, or hyena, than it did with the gray wolf. They weren't able to interbreed, is basically what this means. Because if they could have, they would. Because you see these crosses between coyote and wolf take place. They still have that ability when they have overlapping territories to odd off occasional interbreeding, intermixing, but not the dire wolf. So the question is, can we bring it back, Blair?
Don't bring it back. Where are you going to put it?
With the mammoths up in Canada. We'll just put everything in Canada.
Let's get Canada on the phone before you.
I don't think we should ask. I think we should apologize if things turn out badly.
Oh, ask for forgiveness instead
of permission, because we will never get it.
Okay.
But the interesting thing would be that the dire wolves, even though they form this, they're more related to jackals, they're still going to be using a similar ecological niche to the wolves. So you can't bring it back because they could be competing with like already endangered wolf species or threatened wolf species. So let's help the ones that are still alive. That's
the thing. If you bring dire wolves back, they're going to start killing things that we don't want them to kill, and then people are going to kill them immediately. It's going to be a problem.
It's a cycle we want to avoid.
Just breed your dogs to look more wolf-like, and then you can pretend you have a dire wolf.
We'll get a husky. That'd be great. Malamute.
You're saying the danger is that we would kill the dire wolf?
Yeah.
Well, there's none of them now. They'll still be better off if they give them a running chance.
All right. Well, let's move away from these dead dire wolves.
It's just weird though. It also says that they overlapped for 10,000 years in location. Are the gray wolves not as native to North America, I think?
Gray wolves are more recent, I think.
Yeah, more recent.
Then maybe the dire wolf. The dire wolf is maybe the native. We need to replace the gray wolf with the dire wolf, or a hybrid of the two, because they never got it done themselves.
Don't hybridize animals.
Hybrid of two species that never would have become hybrids from mating in the first place. Let's not do that.
We have science now. Maybe they wanted to have children and just weren't able to, and there was no scientific help. Wow.
They did not have scientific help then. No. All right. I want to talk about sperm.
Yes.
I thought we just were. Oh, okay.
I love sperm science.
Yes, we're going to talk about
science.
Sperm markers. And no, these aren't little markers. Sperm. No. Anyway, these are epigenetic markers in the DNA of sperm. Researchers at Washington State University Pullman have been looking at biomarkers in human sperm to try and identify men who are more likely to have autistic children. They have identified and published in Clinical Epigenetics this last week a set of genomic features, DNA methylation regions in sperm samples from men who were known to have autistic children. Then they did a bunch of blind tests and were able to predict whether or not a man's sperm indicated probability of having an autistic child with 90% accuracy.
Wow.
Yes. So the researcher, Michael Skinner, says we can now potentially use this to assess whether a man is going to pass autism onto his children. It's a major step toward identifying what factors might promote autism. Because we do know that as men age, there's a higher likelihood of having children with autism and other disorders. And it's very often there are many factors that are put on women. And there was another study that came out today as well that identified a number of metabolic factors in women who had autistic children, but they didn't look at the women while they were pregnant. They only looked at them after the fact. So there's no way of knowing. There's no way of tying it together. But these factors were related to folic acid levels and other enzymes and metabolites within their blood. But that seems that there are potential dietary metabolic issues in some women, but if there is a genetic issue, an epigenetic issue that can be identified ahead of time in men, this is something that could be a major change. Yes, everybody can change their diet. You can eat more, make sure you get more folate, more folic acid, but you can't change your sperm. So it's good to know.
In the future,
but you could screen your sperm, right? Especially if you're doing IVF, you could screen. Yeah.
Especially if you're doing IVF.
Absolutely. So dating in the future. Hey, before we get we go even on a second day, I'm going to need a sample of your sperm. That's fine. That's actually that works out because that's kind of where I was hoping the evening would go.
Or you just pay to get your sperm sorted.
No.
So it's only
I like my version better.
The sperms.
Like a sperm screener.
Yeah.
Yep. The sperm screener. Of course, there's definitely more work to be done, accuracy rate to improve, but 90% is fairly accurate. They are limited by number at this point in time, and so they'll be working on a more extensive study involving over 100 men within the next study to see how their 805 different methylation regions pan out in a larger study sample.
Yeah, because we also have to remember that the autism spectrum is also in the realm of people who can handle huge amounts of information. It's very likely young Albert. Was this also Albert? Was it Albert Jr.? But Albert Einstein's one of his sons. Very likely had autism, had severe issues. So people who in that same family, you could be getting rid of all the geniuses if you're trying to just screen out autism. Then you suddenly don't have the next generation of people who can handle huge volumes of information and data handling browsers and all these sorts of things that we will need in our very bright future. So we probably should screen for autism.
Genetic diversity is amazing, and different phenotypes and human diversity is amazing. And no, I don't think that we should be going the everyone is the same and that kind of route. But if people are concerned and they want to have their sperm screened, maybe in the future, this will be something that can be an option for some people, which I think is interesting. Another thing that could be an option for some people in the future, this is what I think is going to be this huge advancement. This, if it pans out for people. Right now, once again, scientists cured mice. And it's awesome.
Cured the mice of everything?
They're immortal.
Yeah, that's right. The mice live forever now. No. A company called BioNTech. Yes, BioNTech. The name might sound familiar to you.
Yeah, they're working on the vaccines right now.
Yes, they are making a vaccine with Pfizer. So the Pfizer vaccine, Pfizer has gotten the bigger billing mostly here in the US, but the company that they've been working with is BioNTech. BioNTech recently, this last week, published a paper. Their researchers published a paper in Science called Non-Inflammatory mRNA Vaccine for Treatment of Experimental Autoimmune Encephalomyelitis. Autoimmune encephalomyelitis is a disease model that is used in mice to model multiple sclerosis. It's an autoimmune disorder. In mice, it's as close as they can get at this point to the attack on myelin and the physical effects that occur as a result of the immune system attacking itself, attacking the nervous system. And This is another hope for mRNA. This is a vaccine in which they delivered autoantigens. They took little segments of antigens from the body that the mouse body would normally be attacking. That the mouse body would normally go, it's an intruder, but it's me, but I don't like it, so I'm going to attack it. And then you have disease. The mRNA wrapped in the fatty layers like they do for the vaccine that we're taking for COVID, delivered autoantigens into mouse lymphoid dendritic cells. Dendritic cells are immune cells in our immune system. These dendritic cells then created a population of T cells that suppressed autoreactivity. The treatment delayed onset of the disease, and it reduced severity of disease in mice that already had the model disorder. So this could potentially be, if they can get it to work clinically in people, a vaccine for multiple sclerosis.
Wow. That's
amazing. Amazing. And the kicker for all this that is so exciting is that it's immunosuppressive specifically for these autoimmune antigens that the immune system recognizes as foreign for whatever reason and starts attacking. It's specific to that only. It is not generalized to the entire immune system, to the entire body system. It is a specific, very specific response within the body. And so the immune system, so what happens in multiple sclerosis very often is you take immune suppressing drugs to keep the disease from progressing. That it turns down your entire immune system. Mm-hmm. This kind of vaccine would not do that. It would only turn down the part of your immune system that's attacking you. Oh my goodness, yes. And so it was very effective in these mice. It seemed to work really well. They didn't really see any kind of negative immune reactions. There didn't seem to be excess immune reactions or immune responses that you might be afraid of. There didn't seem to be anything like that. So this is a huge advancement with a bunch of potential. Once again, mRNA.
Man, mRNA really already edging for MVP of the decade.
Yeah. So mRNA, MVP, it's the 2020s, it's going to be the decade of mRNA, for sure.
And like the 2010s were like the decade of CRISPR, right?
Yes.
And now mRNA is going to be the thing.
Yeah, CRISPR became a tool that's being used all over the place. It's being used in labs everywhere. It hasn't panned out as much for medical treatments and therapies as we thought it would, but things like mRNA and other gene editing gene editing technologies, they're heading that direction. But in mice, we can't get it to people because that's the next step. Just we need to see this in pigs, in humans. I want to see this. I want to see it work in something other than mice, because we do know that there are sometimes problems in translating research from mice to people. So fingers crossed. I can't get too excited too quickly, but I'm excited. I'm very excited for people to be able to potentially live a life without multiple sclerosis who would otherwise. It's huge. This doesn't, the thing about this vaccine though, is it doesn't get rid of whatever the initial problem. I mean, it does in a sense because it damps down that specific autoimmune response, but whatever the misconnect was, it doesn't fix that, but maybe it doesn't matter.
There's only one way to find out.
Yeah.
That's with a clinical trial.
With the clinical trial, yes. But we have come now to the end of our show. I don't have any more stories. Do you have any more stories?
No, I am all good.
We all out of stories.
Yeah, for now.
for now. Until next week. I mean, there are more stories. There are so many more things.
I had a really tough time winnowing it down this week. There's a lot of really good science this week. I feel like everyone took the holidays off. They were sitting on the research.
And it's all back.
January started. They're like, pew, 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 pew.
I feel like these stories are all from procrastinators and bad time management people. It's like, we should have tried to get it out before the holidays, but I'm going to have to wait now over the next couple weeks. And then publish. Because I couldn't publish.
Or they wanted to publish in 2021, so they didn't have the shadow of 2020 on their paper.
It's not good. It's a good year for science. It's a good year for lots of things other than it's just some human-y nonsense that's terribly tragic that's going on.
Yeah. On that note, thank you for joining us for this show tonight. We have come to the end of the show. I would like to give shout outs to the people who help the show. Thank you, Fada, for your help with show notes and with social media and in the YouTube chat room. Thank you, Gord McLeod, for managing our TWIS chat room over at Web Chat. And Identity4, thank you for recording the show every week. Without your help, we really couldn't do what we do. I might be looking for some more help, though. So if you want to help me out, send me an email. I need some assistant-y type help for people who like to do assistant-y type things. And I would also like to thank the Burroughs Welcome Fund and our Patreon sponsors for their support of This Week in Science. Look, I'm going to do something new this week. Dun 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 dun. Thank you, patrons. Put your names down. Woody MS, Andre Bassett, Chris Wozniak, Dave Bunn, Vegard Shefstad, Hal Snyder, Jonathan Stiles, a.k.a. Don Stylo, John Chioli, Guillaume, John Lee, Ali Coffin, Gaurav Sharma, Shu Bruce, Sarah Forfar, Darwin Hannon, Donald Mundus, Stephen Alberon, Daryl Myshak, Stu Pollock, Andrew Swanson, Fred S104, Sky Luke, Paul Ronovich, Bentley the Translator, Big Nell, Kevin Reardon, Noodles, Jack, Brian Carrington, Matt Bass, Joshua Fury, Sean and Nina Lamb, John McKee, Greg Riley, Mark Hessenflow, Gene Tellier, Steve Leisman, a.k.a. Zima, Ken Hayes, Howard Tan, Christopher Rappin, Dana Pearson, Richard, Brendan Minish, Melizond, Johnny Gridley, Kevin Railsback, Flying Out, Richard Porter, Christopher Dreyer, Mark Mazzaros, Artyom, Greg Briggs, John Atwood, 2020 can bite my shiny metal arse. Rudy Garcia, Dave Wilkinson, Rodney Lewis, Paul, Rick Ramus, Matt Sutter, Philip Shane, Kurt Larson, Craig Landon, Mountain Sloth, Jim DePoe, Sarah Chavez, Alex Wilson, John Ratnaswamy, Sue Doster, Jason Olds, Dave Neighbor, Eric Knapp, E.O., Kevin Parachan, Aaron Luthen, Steve DeBell, Bob Calder, Marjorie, Paul Stanton, Paul Disney, Patrick Pecoraro, Gary S., Tony Steele, Ulysses Adkins, Brian Condren, Jason Roberts, and Dave Friedel. Thank you for all of your support on Patreon. And if you would like to be a Patreon sponsor, you can head over to twis.org, click on the Patreon link, become a sponsor. On next week's show,
we will be back Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific time, 5 a.m. Central European time, broadcasting live from our YouTube, Facebook channels, and from twis.org/live.
Hey, do you want to listen to us as a podcast with all this nonsense cut out in between? Just search for This Week in Science wherever podcasts are found. If you enjoyed the show, get your friends to subscribe as well.
Yes, and for more information on anything you've heard here, show notes and links to stories will be available on our website, www.twis.org. And you can also sign up for a newsletter if you like.
That's right. You can also contact us directly. Email Kirsten at thisweekinscience.com, Justin at twistminion@gmail.com, or me, Blair, at blairbaz@twis.org. Just be sure to put TWIS, TWIS, in the subject line, or your email will be spam filtered all the way into 2 leaves sewn together at the back by some spider webs, and your email will be eaten by a huntsman spider.
You can also hit us up on the Twitter where we are at TWIS Science, at Dr. Kiki, at Jackson Fly, and at Blair's Menagerie. We love your feedback. If there's a topic you'd like us to cover or address, a suggestion for an interview, a haiku that comes during the night, please let us know.
We'll be back here next week, and we hope you'll join us again for more great science news.
And if you've learned anything from the show, remember,
it's all in your head.
This week in science. This week in science. This week in science. This week in science, it's the end of the world. So I'm setting up shop, got my banner unfurled. It says the scientist is in, I'm gonna sell my advice. Show them how to stop the robots with a simple device. I'll reverse global warming with a wave of my hand. And all it'll cost you is a couple of grand. 'Cause this week's science is coming your way. So everybody listen to what I say. I use the scientific method for all that it's worth, and I'll broadcast my opinion all over the earth. 'Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 I've got one disclaimer, and it shouldn't be news, that what I say may not represent your views, but I've done the calculations and I've got a plan. If you listen to the science, you may just yet understand that we're not trying to threaten your philosophy. We're just trying to save the world from jeopardy. Jeopardy. And This Week in Science is coming your way. So everybody listen to everything we say, and if you use our method instead of rolling a die, we may rid the world of toxoplasma gondii. 'Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 I've got a laundry list of items I want to address, from stopping global hunger to dredging Loch Ness. I'm trying to promote more rational thought, and I'll try to answer any question you've got. But how can I ever see the changes I seek when I can only set up shop 1 hour a week? This Week in Science is coming your way. You better just listen to what we say, and if you've learned anything from the words that we've said, then please just remember it's all in your head. 'Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in 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 Science.
They left me. My whole team left me behind. I don't know where they've gone. I'm going to guess that Sadie needed a walk, and maybe so did Justin. I don't know where everybody went, but I'm glad you're still here. I know, and so is my feather. You see it there, the feather. Yes. I started investigating new headsets for my ears, and I got bogged down in technicalities. But what I really would love, hello Thunder Beaver. I would really love to get rid of this cord, because when I move around, the cord yanks and then it pulls on the headphone jack, and that's not good for my headphone jack or the Scarlet. So if I can get a Bluetooth headphone jack adapter transmitter, right? Then I could get Bluetooth earbuds to monitor that would go with whatever that was. And so that's what I was thinking. Carol Ann, it's okay to be tired. I'm glad you slept. We're still here. Nobody here but us chickens. Oh, good. Identity 4, I'm glad you're a figment of my imagination. I wouldn't want it any other way. Nope. Samsung Momentum. All right. Yeah, something that'll be long enough to do the show, I think would be good.
Yeah, that's always the thing about Bluetooth headphones for me. I feel like they always die at inopportune moments.
Yeah, and I would have to be really good about charging them, keeping them charged. I mean, if I just left them here and only used them here and not elsewhere around the house.
The ones I'm wearing are Bluetooth, but they also have the option to be plugged, which I appreciate. So then if it dies, then you can still plug in. You're good. I just actually I could probably
run Bluetooth on your computer with the headphones.
I have Bluetooth on my computer. I probably should just use these Bluetooth. It's basically a holdout from when I had that super old laptop because I think the processor couldn't handle all of the things. And so when I had Bluetooth headphones on and did the show, my internet, like I feel like the quality of my upload was worse. So I don't even know if that makes any sense. I think my computer was just like too many things.
Yeah.
And it also, I think, drained the laptop battery and all sorts of stuff. But yeah, I could totally do it now. I don't know why I don't. I should.
Wired is always better. Yes, Shubrew. I mean, wired audio, if you're listening to music, if I'm listening to music, I'm going to want good quality. I mean, I'm not like a super audiophile, but I'm enough of an audiophile that if I know I'm listening to something that is not super compressed, maybe I'm listening to master tracks or something that's got some a really good, a good compression scheme, but is not overly compressed. If I'm listening to something that's really good, I want to hear it, and I don't want it to be smushed by Bluetooth, which is going to happen no matter what, whether you get Bluetooth 5 or 4 or whatever, 3. Yeah, Bluetooth. But anyway, yeah, so wired's great for stability, and it would be easy to buy a pair of wired earbuds or headphones like you have, Blair. I started looking at all the options, and oh my God, you guys, you know how I know that I am like ADD? I am really bad at shopping. I'm like, look at all the options. Oh God, I'm totally overwhelmed. I need to go now. Like, it's too much. It's like I have a general idea of what I want, but then I'm like, I don't know how to make that happen. Shopping's hard. You know how hard shopping is. Oh my God. IKEA is like, I don't want to go there. Fry's Electronics, no way. God, places with too many options. Superstores, any superstore would get me out of here.
Carol in the chat room is saying she fell asleep during the show.
Yeah.
And it made it. I listened and it made its way into my brain, and I created a dream around it. Oh, I hope it was a good dream.
Gaurav Sharma, I take 3 hours to book a flight as well, but then you add another 3 hours on top of that for maybe another couple of days for booking a hotel.
Oh yeah,
keep adding the options. I'm like, oh God, let's not even talk about a rental car. It's the worst.
Rental car was fun. I took one to the airport ahead of my flight to Denmark, and I asked for the little standard econo car, and I ended up with a 5-liter Mustang.
What?
Yeah, I'm like, convertible.
They're like, you're from America.
I was like, that's the econo car, and I'm like, well, it's what we had. Okay, so the whole point of choosing was just negated by this is what we've got on the lot, so this is what we gave you. It was a fun ride. But yeah, sometimes your whole choosing isn't up to you.
No, sometimes it's better that way. Oh, Michael Gibson. That'd be nice. Just use your own plane. That makes it really easy. That's much better.
It does, except that one of the things. Wait, does Denmark drive the same side as the U.S.? Yes, they drive the same side as the U.S., but they have tiniest cars. Like picture the smallest car you've ever seen on an American road. That's like the average car size. Like a large car is a compact. Like most of the cars are subcompact, and it's really weird. And the speed limits are much lower for most of the. I've tried to avoid driving as much as possible because it just feels weird. But yes, they do drive on the right side of the road. It's I think only the British and British allied wrong side of the road drivers. I don't know why they've never fixed it. It seems like just for car manufacturers, it would just make it easier. Just like let's all have the steering wheel on the same side. Let's all drive the same way. But no, they prefer to be different, I guess.
Yeah.
If they were a British colony, it's on the other side. Except for the U.S., we were a colony once too.
Oh, are all the fries closing? I wouldn't doubt that.
I mean, I saw an
Yeah.
article about it, but I didn't click on it, so I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
That's always a fun store to go wander for the technology. I guess people are buying more tech online, but there's something about walking through a giant big box of technology and just sort of wandering around and going like, oh, what is that? How can I use that to my advantage? I guess you could still try to do that online, but I don't know.
But that's not
nice
the
to have
point
a
of fries. The
human
point of
app.
fries was the theming, because each of the stores had a different theme.
Wait, what?
Justin, what? Do you not know about this?
I've not. I've only got one giant big box Fry's Electronics in my.
And what was the theme of that one?
Electronics, like computers and stuff.
No. So where was it? It was the one near Sac, right? Isn't there there's a giant train that looks like it's driving through the fries?
No, there isn't. No, you're making stuff up. It's got a unique arch or something over the top of it, but I just assumed all the fries.
Train-themed fries. Here we go.
What?
Yes.
It's train themed?
They're all like most of the ones in California are themed. The one in San Jose was Aztec themed. So it was shaped like a little like Aztec pyramid-y thing. I'm trying to think. There was another one.
I guess I've only ever been to one, so I never noticed that they were putting in this extra effort.
I'm looking at, I want these Bluetooth earbud headphones, but they're not like headphones. They're active noise. I put a link in the chat room, but
this is something I didn't know. Carol says that Sweden used to drive on the other side. Huh. Interesting.
Sweden used to drive on the other side. Interesting.
Oh yeah, Japan is on the left. That is weird. That's weird. I don't know why. I guess it's too late at some point. It's just you can't switch now. It's all your off ramps would be on ramps. It's like too much effort.
I'm gonna get glasses and earbuds for aging people. Active noise suppression. Earbuds. They're gonna be amazing. I'll turn off my whole family.
Yeah, no, you won't be able to hear that part of the show anymore.
Yeah. The one in SoCal was alien themed. That's right.
Wait, what?
The Fry's Electronics.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Sacramento was railroad themed. The one in Fremont was Silicon Valley themed, whatever that means. So there was like computer chippy stuff everywhere.
But they sell computer chippy stuff anyway. So.
No, but it's like you have to understand. It's like giant plaster dioramas in the store.
You know what's really funny is I went to the Sacramento Fries a lot when I lived in the Davis area, and every time I went, I got so like overwhelmed that I ended up just looking in this like just what's right in front of me. So I never ever noticed any of that stuff. Can't.
My thing was after having gone a few times and walked away with nothing because for the same reason, just wandering and being like, there's too many choices.
Yeah.
I went up to somebody and I asked a question. And I ended up spending like 5 times more money than I had planned on for this computer. But I was like really happy with it. I was like, I think I got the right thing because the person seemed to be knowledgeable. But yeah, I have
train themed fries.
So there's a whole list on the side too. So there's an Alice in Wonderland one, an Alien one, 2 giant.
But what's funny is I've been to that one. You know, few dozen times. I never noticed that it was train themed at all. I never once noticed anything train themed about it whatsoever.
Yeah.
It's inside. It's just a big giant warehouse. The outside didn't look anything train depot at all.
So the outside has a giant water tank and a train coming out of the wall. Is what the outside looks like.
Yeah.
What?
So
yep, I remember. I know.
What?
Yeah, I've seen
Well, I'm
that.
talking about older people. What's your favorite store as a kid that isn't around anymore? It's Toys R Us, obviously. That's the only store
Toys
that
R
was
Us
around
is
as a
John
kid.
Hogan said that too.
You have as a favorite. Toys R Us was the
KB
greatest.
Toys was also
store.
fun. Those are all gone.
They're here in Denmark. Some
Really?
Danish company bought them. So
Interesting.
the
FAO
one with the
Schwartz.
big fuzzy
That's
hat.
dead.
I was really sad. I remember going to FAO Schwartz in New York City and being like, going to the toy store, it's awesome. And then I went to take Kai there and it was awful. They still have it, but it was sterile and awful. And I was like,
Right.
what happened to all the toys? It was really not, it lost its brilliance. Its
You know what else
cuteness.
lost its brilliance? Last time I went to Disneyland, the
Oh,
Lego
Tower
store was very
Records.
different. Oh, Tower
gosh.
Records. That was definitely my favorite. Oh my
Tower
God,
Records.
Oh, that's a
great.
good one.
Radio Shack.
Radio Shack was also fun.
Yeah. Radio Shack is a great go-to.
Circuit City was pretty fun. I would like to go. I loved playing with all the stereo.
Blockbuster.
Like you would go walk through the stereo section and crank up the tunes and all the. Yeah, I don't know. I used to love that, but yes, Blockbuster was very fun too.
Blockbuster. It's gone.
Yeah.
My hometown of Davis had a lot of small stores that were pretty cool.
Yeah.
One was called the Naturalist, which at one point encompassed 2 stories of a big space right downtown, and or Discoveries. That was Discoveries. The Naturalist was the little one that was upstairs. Discoveries was the 2-story one. But it had like all sorts of like art supplies plus sciencey kits. It was like pretty groovy place. Naturalist was pretty cool too. The one thing I remember getting there was this little bird chirper. It was like the thing you would twist.
Oh, where you twist it and it's like
made little bird chirping sounds. And then you'd go out and then like none of the birds paid attention to you, so you threw it away because it was like not working.
the only thing it was good at was annoying my family.
Yeah.
Go outside with that. Okay, Mom. All right. I'm gonna try to get some birds. Licorice pizza. Never heard of licorice pizza.
I love licorice. I love pizza. Those are 2 things that I think would go together.
I don't know about that. Double salt licorice pizza.
And hey, remember video game arcades? Those were pretty cool because you didn't have home consoles, so you had to go out and socialize with other kids, and you had to put your quarter up on the machine to be next. It was like,
Yes.
I'm next. So I got my quarters right there. You got to get off the machine now. I have my quarter up there. If you were going to play again, you should have put your quarter up there, but you didn't. So you got to. That's how it works. And it was very Lord of the Flies, the rules of that society within the video game arcade. It turned out the biggest kid usually got to keep playing if they wanted to.
Yeah, the biggest kid could always
get
to keep
their way in the video game arcade.
Yeah. Oh, video game arcades. You'd ride your bike and get to, I lived out in the country, so that couldn't happen. But I have nostalgia for something I never did.
Nostalgia for the age that never existed.
Kiki, I'm gonna share my screen. I would like to complain about this Microcovid tracker that you sent out to all of us.
Oh, okay. Oh, you were trying that.
what?
Cool. Yay. Okay, I'm gonna put it on. Adding to stream.
Look at me.
Oh, Blair.
So this is not seeing anyone.
Dangerously
Living at
high
home. Just working from home, but living with a healthcare worker. Thank you.
That was it.
That's it, huh? Just living with a healthcare worker.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, you should get a vaccine next.
So this is the thing. I was having a whole Twitter conversation today because it's really concerning to me that households of individuals who are essential workers are not part of the rollout at all. They're not a separate category, which, like, I understand you can't get too deep into minutia. I understand that. I also think teachers and grocery store workers and firefighters and police people and all of these people should get vaccines before me. I get it. I totally get it. But I also think that in terms of people who are a household of people who are working from home, maybe don't need it as bad as me. That, like, you know, also, if you're a teacher and you have a 20-year-old son or daughter living at home with you and you're teaching in person, that person should get vaccinated. You know, I think that there's a question here, especially because when Brian got his vaccine, they were like, okay, be sure not to take your mask off, keep wearing your mask, keep doing all your social distancing and your hand washing and all this stuff, because you can still transmit the virus.
Yeah.
So he could still bring it home to me. He's protected.
Yeah.
But then,
but I'm still here.
Okay, but minutia. Okay,
And
so
you're not
teacher
wearing a mask at home
All the
either.
teacher families then in that case. And then, hey, I got a kid that's going to a school, so I need it too. The point is that everyone needs it. The stupid part is that
roll it out somehow.
The rollout is happening slow.
Totally. But if you're, you know, there's some minutia that's being discussed and there's other minutia that's not. And that's all I'm saying is that, you know, also there might be something to say, maybe we should be looking at vaccinating households instead of, you know, because that's the other thing. I have a friend who's one of her parents is 75 and one of her parents is 70. So the 75-year-old is getting a vaccine and the 70-year-old is not. See? This is like, the household thing gets real weird because now the 75-year-old is vaccinated. He can go to the grocery store and not get worried, but he could still bring COVID home to his 70-year-old wife. So,
okay.
Oh, wait, can my dad get vaccinated? Is my dad getting vaccinated?
Almost. Yeah, I think California counties are about to start 75 and over.
Can I get very rational on this whole thing? Maybe we should start with reverse age. Maybe the younger you are, is when you should be allowed. The youngest you are allowed to get the vaccine. I don't know if there's an age cutoff down.
Well, one of them is 18 and one of them is 16.
Okay, so whether you're 16 or 18, you start there up because
they have more life left.
Yeah. Yes, if you're already past the average age of living on the planet, and I'm only saying this until I get there, and then I'm going to change this completely. Because I'm actually in the middle. I'm not anywhere near any direction.
Either anything. Yeah.
That's probably much closer to the old one, so I should probably shoot for that. But by the time I get there, anyway, my point is, I think if you're actually at life expectancy, and we need to get as many of these to people to preserve. And you're probably already not going out that much as if you're talking about getting kids. So one of the super spreader events or locations that we've discovered is college universities.
Right.
That's
because
where
socializing. And younger people, single people, they're going out and socializing, and
they go away from home. They come back to the home. They're everywhere. They're
everywhere. These young people.
That's probably where we should start, like at university age.
Oh boy. I don't know.
That's if I was doing it. That's where
I
I
mean,
would start.
we need to start with the places where we've seen the major super spreading events, which have been nursing homes, prisons, with frontline workers who are in the healthcare industry first. And then you go out to what are the next essential. Okay, then you've got frontline workers who are post office, grocery, who are teachers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I do not, I mean, the having to go through this whole process and the people making these decisions. I mean, I'm glad I'm not one of those people.
Well, so here's what's going to happen.
I can sit here and complain all day long.
Here's what's going to happen. This is a prediction that wasn't in the prediction show, but this is a prediction. They're going to blame the slowness of the rollout on the factors that are required for who's first. They're going to say, hey, this is what's slowing it down. Not the fact that there's just not enough vaccine.
Or that they should have started planning all of this 4 months
there
ago.
should have been logistics involved at some point. There's also
That's the problem. That's why other countries have vaccinated more than the United States already.
Also a massive problem. But they're going to blame it on the tiered rollout, and they're going to get rid of the tiered rollout. And then what you'll see is the people with wealth and access to healthcare, that connected healthcare plans. I don't mean connected to a healthcare plan. I mean a healthcare plan that is you paid extra for and it's politically connected. Mm-hmm. That's who will get it first from that point on. It will become a wealth gap thing if we do away with the minutia. If you do away with the minutia,
Justin, it already has. Look at Twitter. So first of all, all of our political leaders have been vaccinated, which I think is insane because okay, so there's that. But then also, like, the fact that I saw today, not to throw any shade at Tony Bennett, but Tony Bennett has already been vaccinated, right? And I'm like, needs
Tony
a vaccine
Bennett is like 80 years old.
Sure, and that's important. But in California, for example, like healthcare workers haven't been fully vaccinated yet. People in nursing homes haven't been vaccinated. Tony Bennett, who has all the money in the world and can have everything delivered to him and is not going out in the world for any reason, is not the person who needs a vaccine right now. But there's a reason he got the vaccine. And it could be so that he can promote the vaccine and increase compliance with getting the vaccine.
I hope so.
Great.
I hope so.
But it could also just be because he's rich and famous.
Well, I hope that all of the rich and famous people and politicians, I mean, the one thing that we can hope comes out of it is that the rich and famous and the politicians who are role models and people look up to and want to be on the same team as, or, you know, I look up to you. They come out and they say, I got the vaccine, because that's teachable. That's education. It's showing safety. It is showing that people want to do this, that you look up to. So yeah, I mean, from a messaging standpoint, you can look at it and say someone else should have gotten it first, and you can complain about it, but you can also use it and say, Tony Bennett got the vaccine.
Wait, that means we should get it. Wait, that means we should get it right now, right?
When you can get it.
We're doing the media and we're doing the communication thing about sciencey stuff. We should totally get it. We should totally get the vaccine. Actually, what's funny though is I made this argument about vaccinating athletes, and you guys shot it down. I was like, they're already the guinea pigs for all medical science, and they're role models for so many people.
No, but I feel
and it's not that many of them if you did the NBA.
Yeah, you're right about that. But I mean, it's still the same argument of, I mean, why should they get it first when there are people putting their lives on the line every day and endangering their families because they're putting their lives on the line every day? And that was my argument against it then. And it's still my argument against a lot of people who are rich and famous who are getting their vaccines because they can pay for it. But at the same time, if the NBA does get vaccinated, I hope that every single one of those players comes out and talks about it, because that will help the communities that are especially Black and other communities that are being really hard hit by the COVID pandemic to get those communities to have higher vaccine acceptance rates would be amazing. So
Yeah.
I think there's a huge I mean, nothing is simple. Everything has so many different perspectives to it, and we can argue, or we can go, okay, well, that happened, and be positive. Try and do something positive.
I don't understand what you said right there, but I like the being positive thing. Except positive thinking is also very dangerous, because then you're just like, oh, whatever happened, I'm going to look at the shiny side of it. Well, no,
That's not what I'm saying.
You're going to be in the bottom of the heap.
Yeah, you're reducing that pretty hard.
I know I am. Absolutely.
What I'm saying is that we can spin it, okay? I'm saying be positive is a nice way, but really we can spin it. We can use it to our advantage, and we can take it and run with it and do good things with something that maybe was not great.
Okay. Yes.
Anyway.
Anywho. Oh, hey, I wanted to talk very quickly about a story that somebody sent to me that I thought was ridiculous, but apparently a thing.
Huh?
I'm scrolling. There it is. This was sent to me by Simon Zarafa. And apparently, parrots are attacking poppy farms to get high on opium.
Oh, of course they would. Why not?
Parrots are smart. Parrots like eating fermented fruit. Parrots are very high cognitive functioning animals, probably on par with young children. Young children like to spin around in circles. Sure, parrots want to spin around in mental circles as well, or not. But farms in India apparently have been reaching out because it's happening. Here, if I can share the screen right now. Hold on.
So while you're pulling this up, something that's interesting.
This is a story from 2019. It looks like.
Yeah.
So Papaver savanorum is the opiate-producing poppy flower. It is the core of opium, and heroin trade is also the core of a lot of opiates that we use in medicine, morphine, etc. Also, all of the poppy seeds that you cook with that you can buy in bulk, they're coming from these types of poppies. Also, the decorative ones you might see in a florist shop. So it's sort of always been this weird, like, it's an illicit, illegal, tier whatever, illegal drug, but you can use the plant to decorate a flower arrangement, and you can put it on your muffin. The seeds, you can put them on your muffins in the morning. So it's always been this weird hybrid state that the poppy's been in. Mm-hmm. So there are massive poppy farms that are not illegal on the planet because of the dual uses and natures of this plant. But yeah, the parrots apparently have also discovered this.
They have. Yeah, I hadn't seen this back in 2019. I think it's very interesting. But the parrots, according to IFL Science, wait until farmers slit open the opium poppy pods in order to ripen them and then begin attacking and raiding the farms. And the government in 2017, the government's narcotics department issued a warning about the drug-addicted birds.
Yeah. So on a poppy plant, you don't have to cut them open. They lightly score the outside, and that creates this white sap that oozes out that then dries into that black tar of opium. So they're waiting for the cultivation step of that ooze coming out and turning into opium before they're taking them. That's a selection based on an observed knowledge of when. Oh wow,
when can I get my opium?
I remember in my middle school there was just outside the window there was some sort of fermented berry every spring, I want to say, that the birds would get drunk on, and it was very funny to watch. They would fly all funny and like dive bomb the grass and like fall down and run into each other. It was quite a wild scene. Yeah.
Oh, birds. Oh, birds.
It was distracting me from my English class at the time, for sure.
Girl, anyone else worried Justin knows so much about this?
Nah.
No, I actually did a bunch of research on the opium trade. There was this, this is going to date to 100 years ago. But it was something that the UN had come out, and the United States was trying to shut down opium production in Afghanistan. And the UN had come out and said, no, you shouldn't, because it's going to collapse economies and cause starvation. And it was sort of like this weird thing I was trying to find out, like, why is it illegal if it's, because I'd known that it was from working in a flower shop as youth, that they use those same poppies for floral arrangements. Like, how is this both illegal and not? And apparently it has this weird, like, was it Thailand can grow it for commercial use, but Afghanistan wasn't being allowed to, but then Canada could grow it. Denmark, they grow wild. They're just wild flowers of Denmark are the Papaver sauvinorum plant. So it's a weird, both illegal and essential plant on our planet, I guess.
Cool. Identity 4 likes to drink fermented berries as well. I like to drink fermented grapes and apples, but I don't act like a moose after eating fermented crab apples, I hope. Eric in Alaska is saying, wait until you have to deal with a moose that's been eating fermented crab apples. Yikes. Just on a total tangent, not related to anything else that we've been talking about. This tonight before the show, I had dinner with my family and we sat and we watched The Simpsons, and it was season 13, episode 7. It's called Brawl in the Family, and it's amazing. And I hadn't seen it in years and years and years and years. And I highly recommend, if you're a Simpsons fan or even not, there was a lot in this episode that it was great. Very pertinent to today, but then, just really funny. Good episode. There's a clip in it that I want to share with people, but I have to find it because it was so funny. It made me laugh out loud. Laugh out loud. Wolves and cougars working together. You'll find it. Highly recommend it. Flanders Field. I don't know Flanders Field. Interesting. Not strawberries wine. Oh, what is there? Not strawberries. Strawberry wine, but not strawberries. That's awesome. Fermenting things. Ooh, a peach hard seltzer. Added cinnamon and vanilla beans. That sounds delicious. Shoe brew. Yum. You all are having fun with fermentation. Nice.
The official state flower of California is the golden poppy. But it's California not the sauvinorum type. It's just a wildflower. It's just pretty. And it's the color of the shirt I'm wearing, actually.
Isn't it more? It's more yellow.
Nope.
Yeah, the California poppy?
Well, it can be. Yeah, it can be yellowish. It's a yellow to orange. There's varieties. There's even kind of reddish ones. But they're very, I find them to be very orange.
Orange, yeah. Yeah, I guess so. I think your shirt's more of like a burnt umber orange.
Pull up a California poppy picture.
That's what I'm doing right now.
What do you see? What are you seeing? What are you seeing? You see any yellow? Oh, terrible.
It's orange for sure. Yellowy orange. It's bright orange. It's more of like a bright yellowy orange. Your shirt's more of like a rust orange.
Wow. It's more the color of a poppy in the early morning or evening when the light isn't as good. Yeah.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I some years ago bought several pounds of California poppy seeds, and which they're tiny seeds. So this is, I don't know, I might have gotten somewhere in the neighborhood of 1 million seeds by the end of this, and just had them in my pockets. And if there was an unkempt lawn or patch of land that didn't look like it was being used for anything, I'd just scatter. And I've gone back and I found some places where they have taken, they've come back year after year. So you can reclaim California. Reclaim California with or wherever you live. Find out what the native flower is. So fun fact, native plants, native wildflowers in California are more fire resistant. They have greater heat and fire tolerances, and they burn less than non-native species plants, which is great because that means you should grow them. It's also terrible because it means California has been burning forever, and that the plants seem to have adjusted to this.
Of course they would.
But yeah, wherever your native area is, find out what the native wildflowers were, and order a bunch of seeds and throw them around. Try to bring them back.
Throw them around, or you can just, put them in your pockets and put holes in your pockets and shake them out when you're walking.
Yeah, that's how I was rolling. I had pockets full of poppy seeds. That was just and scattering without like tending. So like most of them didn't do anything. But there's a couple locations where they've done pretty well.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
But yeah, if you have a garden, you can probably do even better.
Grow them in a garden.
Yeah.
Fancy that. Oh my goodness. I don't want to look at the news. Is everything okay? Everything's okay.
Don't look, it's a trap.
It's a trap.
Spider's a trap.
Is everything okay out there in the world? Is it all right?
Yeah, I am kind of looking forward to the not feeling the need to go and check the news cycle to see if my country's still there. I feel like I've been doing that for 4 years. I'm going to be pretty happy when that is. Justin Poppy Seed. I'd totally take that name. That's what I was feeling like. I was getting this really giddy, like sort of like I had this like feeling of being a subversive. Like, because I'd find like this empty patch of land or something on the edge of a farm next to something in like, or find an area of sprinkling where they would sprinkle water in one of those areas between the freeways or on the edges of the freeways. They sort of have them fenced off, like there's an on ramp or an off ramp, and so there's a little patch of land that can't really be accessed or used by people for anything, and then chucking them out there to see if they're. I felt very subversive, and it was sort of giddy about it too. And then it felt like I had the righteous right on my side because these are California native plants. So I don't care about lawns and grass. Those are invasive species. Make America boring again. That would be a great.
I would like that. It would be wonderful. Please.
And Biden's our guy for that. It's definitely going to be boring.
It'll be boring.
What are you talking about, Jack? I got stories I can tell you to make hair curl. Okay, whatever. Just have nothing happen. That would be great.
Somebody's got the zoomies.
Yeah, you got your pups awake running around there.
My animals get the zoomies at night.
Yes.
The zoomies. Oh, my cat randomly has decided that she likes moon pies. That's a new thing. I don't know why. Cats aren't supposed to be able to taste sugar. So I'm trying to figure out what in the moon pies she likes because she gets very excited about them. She's like
Interesting.
She smells them and she comes across the room to eat the moon pie. But it's not a moon pie brand moon pie. It's like, a fancy moon pie from the local store, and they're made with oatmeal cookies and they're delicious. But Why would she want to eat a moon pie?
I don't even know what a moon pie is. I'm not very much into the sugary, delectable thingies.
I'm not so much either. But it's really funny lately. Marshall loves sweets, but he can't eat sweets. And so he buys them for me and Kai to eat. He goes to the store and he's like, he'll come back and he'll be like, here's a pie. I'm like, who's going to eat that? He's like, you are. Okay. Here are cupcakes. Thank you. A moon pie. Y'all know what moon pies are, don't you? Come on. It's 2 cookies with like cream filling, but not like an Oreo. It's like
softer
Soft.
and more gooey. It's like it's almost like marshmallow fluff.
Yes, marshmallow fluff.
Hi. Okay.
She says, hi, I need you right now. You want to play?
I don't want to play right now. That's not what I want.
Don't you want to play, Blair?
She just laid down and went, sorry.
Come on, Mom. Come on.
It's your bedtime and you know it.
Shubru said graham cracker cookies with marshmallow filling dipped in chocolate. Yes. But the ones that I had, they were weird. They're just like oatmeal cookies with a marshmallow fluffy interior. They're delicious oatmeal cookies, oatmeal raisin cookies. Really enjoyed them. So did my cat, which was very odd. What would it be?
Yeah, I don't know. That is a good question. Because they shouldn't taste the sugar.
Mm-mm.
So
the thing that would make it interesting to most people is the sugar. Sugar and spice.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Because so oatmeal cookies have like a very spicy. They have spice in them.
Yeah.
So
it's like cinnamon and
like
nutmeg.
Nutmeg.
What would you put in your oatmeal raisin cookies?
Yeah, so maybe it's the nutmeg.
Could be. Oatmeal raisin cookies.
All right.
And cats. Wonder what that's. Somebody's cat ate oatmeal raisin cookies. I'm not the only one whose cat has eaten oatmeal raisin cookies. But without the raisins, the cookies. All right, I'm not the only one. Thank you, Google. You ready to go? Have a day, Justin?
You guys are making me hungry. I gotta go make breakfast.
Go have some breakfast. Go break your fast.
The sun should be up in a few hours. So
what?
The sun is up for like 4 hours a day. It's like that's it. And then even when it's up, there's like thick clouds. So it's
still no sun.
Yeah.
That's why the Danes are such happy people.
Cloves. That was the spice I was trying to think of.
Cloves, yes.
The cloves.
Yeah. The Danes do get really happy when they see the sun. They're like, sun! The sun! Do you see it? It shines! I can feel the warmth! I'm like, yeah, okay. Come to California sometime. You can have that all of the every day. You can have that all the time. Unless you go to San Francisco and then you'll be like, what? I feel ripped off. I came all the way to California for the sun. I don't see it.
There's more and more sun in San Francisco as climate change
Always
continues.
sunny in San Francisco. Say goodnight, Blair.
Good night, Blair. Say goodnight, Justin.
Yeah.
Good morning, Justin.
Good morning, Justin.
Good night.
Hi, Kiki.
Good night, everyone. Thank you for another wonderful show. Let's have a great week full of peace and harmony.
Yeah.
And peace. And yeah, that'd be good.